I told you to smile. Let me tell you about what happened to me not long ago. It was an ordinary night. Nothing crazy was going on. It was just me, my bowl of popcorn, and my show on Netflix. 2 a.m. struck and I couldn't sleep. Maybe because I was eating junk food, or maybe because I had a strange feeling in my gut. I was upstairs in my bed at the time. While I was relaxing, a weird noise for that time of night startled me. It was a knock on my front door. I thought I was just imagining things, so I stopped the show I was watching and listened carefully. After about 3 seconds, another knock could be heard, and then another and another. Who could be at my door at 2 in the morning? Maybe that strange feeling I had was trying to tell me something. I put on my slippers and grabbed my robe before going downstairs. Oddly enough, the knocks had some rhythm to them. They were 3 seconds apart, but as I was walking, they became more powerful and more frequent. They sounded almost like a beating heart. I was feeling kind of scared, I'm not gonna lie, but I still went to the door. I turned the knob and slowly opened it, but to my surprise, the knocking stopped. I looked around, but I couldn't see anyone. Did I imagine the entire thing? I mean, I must have. Who could be here at 2 in the morning? Maybe some kids didn't have anything better to do and tried to prank me. Anyway, I went back to bed. That strange feeling was gone and I finally felt sleepy. I tossed and turned a little, but finally I fell asleep. At around 4 a.m., I got woken up by a loud thump. I didn't know where the sound was coming from, so I just stayed in bed and listened to see if anything else was going on. Another noise a couple of seconds later. I was scared out of my mind. I jumped out of bed and I felt the urge to look out the window. Maybe I could see who was pranking me. As I turned my gaze toward the window, I saw that the glass was foggy, and on it, smiley faces were drawn. Who would even do that? I looked out the window to see if anybody was in front of my home, but there was no one, and I mean no one. Fresh snow was on the ground, and I couldn't see any footsteps. I reached for the phone and finally found it under the bed. It must have fallen there when I jumped. Wanting to dial 911, I saw something on my screen. It was a notification. It said I had a message, but it didn't show me the number. When I opened it up, it said, "I told you to smile." At that moment, I started crying. I was scared for my life, and I needed to get out of the house. The only thing I could do was go and knock on my neighbor's door. I knew them very well, and I was certain that they would help me. I woke them up and they invited me inside. I told them everything, and without hesitating, they called the police. It was around 5 a.m. when the police arrived and started to look around. They even went inside my house, but they couldn't find anything. The cops came and talked to me. They said that there was no one in the house, and I was safe. "You can go to sleep, ma'am. There's nothing to be afraid of. We checked the entire house," one of them said. I told them about the smiles on the window, and they went to check. But when they got there, the window was clear. The police officers assured me again that I was safe and I could go to bed. I took out my phone to show them the message, but I couldn't find it. It was like someone hacked my phone and deleted the message. They advised me again to relax and not think about it anymore. I thought they were very rude. One of them even suggested that I should go to a therapist. I really had enough of their remarks. I thanked them and then went to bed. As I was lying in bed, I kept questioning myself. Was it all real, or did I just dream everything? Maybe it was from the food I ate before I went to bed, but I was too tired to have a debate in my head, so I just fell asleep. The next morning, I decided to spend the entirety of the day with my neighbors. I was just too afraid to go home, but they gave me a brilliant idea. They told me I should buy a couple of security cameras and place them in my bedroom and around my house. That way I could see if anything was going on or not. The next thing I knew, I was at the electronics store holding 3 cameras. Later that day when I got home, I set up the cameras, one facing the window and one facing the door, and another one facing my front yard. After that, I went to sleep. If anything was going on, I will surely know by morning. I had a pretty crazy night. I dreamt a lot of weird things. One of the dreams was me standing in the middle of a forest, surrounded by black roses. All of a sudden, mist started to cover the ground, and I heard a howl that seemed to be right next to me. That's the moment I woke up. Actually, to be honest, I woke up about 5 or 6 times last night. Anyway, at 8 a.m., I was so nervous and somewhat excited when I got up because I wanted to see what my cameras managed to pick up last night. I went to my computer and started looking through the footage. To my surprise, there was nothing. Nothing happened. Anywhere. Not in my room, not at the window, and not even in my front yard. The only thing I actually did see was a stray cat walking by my house. Did I really imagine everything? I thought to myself while finishing with the footage. But then, a thought popped into my mind. I couldn't hear anything last night. I had nightmares, yes, but no one knocked on my door, and no one drew on my window. After thinking about it, I decided that I didn't imagine anything. Something happened that night, and since last night, everything was quiet. That's the reason my cameras didn't pick up anything. Maybe the person saw that I installed them and was scared to come back and mess with me. Anyway, the day went on as usual. Nothing spectacular happened that needs to be mentioned here. So let's fast forward. Nighttime came again. It was around 9 p.m. when I started to get ready for bed. Even though nothing exciting happened that day, I was still tired from walking around and doing errands. So I wanted to call it an early night. I did my routine and hopped into bed. I think it didn't take longer than a half an hour for me to fall asleep, but this night was going to be much different than the previous one. Around 3 a.m., I woke up. I was shivering. I didn't know why, but the room was very cold. I took a look at the window and saw that it was wide open. I don't remember leaving the window open, I thought to myself. Also, it was winter. Why would I do that? I hopped out of bed and closed it in a second, covering myself with a bathrobe to keep warm. After that, I came to the realization that I was thirsty. With my robe still on my shoulders, I grabbed my slippers and proceeded to head downstairs. As I was approaching the bottom of the stairs, I heard a noise. It was something hitting the floor, so without wasting a moment, I turned on the lights. I saw that a bottle of water that had been on the edge of the counter fell to the ground. I have to stop putting things so close to the edge, I thought to myself while laughing. I almost gave myself a heart attack. Then I went and picked it up before taking a sip out of it. The next thing I did was went back to bed. I just sat there, covered in my blanket, having this strange feeling that someone was watching me. You need to relax, I told myself. They are just mind games. You're all alone in this house. Relax and go to sleep, I continued to think to myself, hoping that it will calm me down. And it did. Eventually, I fell asleep. But it didn't last long. At around 5 a.m., I woke up all of a sudden. I was wide awake and my eyes were as big as they could get, scanning my bedroom. The same feeling that someone was watching me took over my mind and my body. I decided to check the security cameras, and what I saw blew my mind. A small, weak man that looked like Gollum from Lord of the Rings crawled out from under my bed while I was sleeping. Without making a noise, he just sat there and watched me as I was holding my pillow tight and probably dreaming because I kept rolling around in bed. Then he noticed the camera and headed towards it. He got so close that his face occupied the entire frame. He had veins popping out of his head, and he had a really pale complexion. The man's eyes were completely red, with his pupils barely showing, but he had a huge, creepy smile on his face. He stared at the camera without even moving for about 2 hours. The man didn't even blink. He just stood there, like a statue with a big smile on his face. I shut off my computer. I panicked because I knew that someone has been in my house, and maybe he probably still is. Of course, the next thing I did was check my bed, but to my surprise, there was nothing there. I went over the footage over and over again. I couldn't believe that something like this would ever happen to me. The next thing I knew, my entire house was turned upside down. I knew that the guy was still in my home. I searched everywhere. I looked in every nook and cranny, but I couldn't find him. I also called the police. They remember me from the night before, and they were taking my case lightly. Even though they didn't believe me, I knew I had proof. I waited for them on my front porch with my laptop in hand. I knew this time they wouldn't doubt me. The proof was right there. Shortly, they arrived in front of my house. Right after that, they came out of their car. Without saying hello, I started to show them the footage from the night before. As I was showing them the footage, I couldn't believe my eyes. The only thing the camera had captured was me sleeping for about 9 hours. I started to panic and fast-forwarded the video, but nothing. There wasn't any man on the camera, only me. The policemen looked at each other and thought I was crazy. They even gave me a warning not to call if everything was fine. Not before long, they left, and I was just standing there, looking stupid with footage of me sleeping all night. Am I really crazy? I thought. I threw my laptop on my couch, almost breaking it, since I was so angry, and decided to go take a warm bath. As I entered my bathroom and turned on the water, something caught my eye. There it was, the proof that only I could see. On my bathroom mirror, there was a smiley face with the word "smile" written under it. I broke down in tears. I didn't know what was going on. I fell on the floor and started crying even harder. The feeling that I was going insane took over my body and my mind. I felt like the whole world was crumbling around me. I kept asking myself, why do I imagine these things? I asked myself this question again and again, until finally a voice answered me. The voice told me the following: "Don't cry. Smile. I told you to smile." I couldn't believe I was hearing that. I turned around to see if someone was in my bathroom. Then I saw him. That little man with bloodshot eyes was looking directly into my soul. I screamed and tried to get out of the bathroom, but to my surprise, he was really strong. The guy got a hold of me and threw me across the bathroom. I hit my head on the bathtub, resulting in a gash. I was bleeding all over the bathroom tiles while that guy was slowly coming towards me. He grabbed my hair and told me, "Smile," before slapping me over the face. I was powerless. I thought I was going to die that day. But in a moment of despair, I managed to get my hand on a razor blade I kept in the bathroom, and when he wasn't paying attention, I slashed his face with it. The guy started screaming, covering his face with his hands, blood pouring from between his fingers. This is my chance, I thought, so I got up and ran past him, out of the bathroom. He started chasing me, but I managed to get out of the house and scream for help. Not long after, my neighbors heard me and called the police. Luckily, they were just around the corner, so they arrived in 30 seconds max. The man who assaulted me wasn't far enough to escape. The police officers managed to get a hold of him and take him to jail. Fortunately, I was okay. I went to the hospital immediately and they fixed the gash on top of my head. Later, I found out who that guy was. It seems like we went to the same high school. Way back, I didn't remember him, but as it turned out, he remembered me. After high school, he got into programming and was very good with computers, but he also had a mental illness. It seems like he had a crush on me in high school and never really got over that phase. That's why he did this to me, and that explained how he managed to hack my security cameras and my phone.